Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Danis of Capital Athletics. Welcome into the Coach Candeto Show here on athletics.capital.edu. Joining me now, the head football coach of Capital, Coach Candeto. So, Coach, 56-20 loss to Baldwin-Wallace. Last week we were talking about the Yellow Jackets quarterback Tyler Miglin, and you were telling me that this guy's a lot like Tim Tebow, a guy that can make plays with his arm and his legs. 7-19 through the air, 185 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Oh, by the way, he had 150 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. I mean, this guy's the real deal, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's a special player, and we certainly didn't slow him down. I think at halftime he was 13 for 13 passing, so that's pretty good efficiency. And when a guy has those type of numbers against you, it's going to be a long day.
Let's keep the discussion going with quarterbacks here. Nick Iskey, he was out the previous week against John Carroll, comes back in, plays pretty solidly, especially from the passing standpoint against Baldwin-Wallace. 7-9, 101 yards, 1 touchdown. Also a passing touchdown for Zach Sheridan. I would suppose that it was nice to get Nick back in there and have that 2 quarterback system instead of just relying on one guy.
Yeah, it was. Both being sophomores, I think sometimes it could be a little bit too much to give them the whole load. And they complement each other well, as we said in the past. But yeah, I was pleased with the way they threw the football. Got some confidence there. A lot of it was late in the game, but I think both of them threw the ball well, gave us a chance, and that's what we needed to do because Baldwin-Wallace was doing a nice job up front, beating us on the line of scrimmage a lot of times and slowing our running game down. And anytime you can do that, it's going to cause some problems for us. But with the way they came out and the receivers caught the ball for the most part, I thought I was pretty pleased with the passing game.
We'll talk about one receiver in particular in just a moment, but first, Isaiah Lyles. He comes back at that B-back position. He had been dealing with some full body cramping from what I understand. 17 carries, 86 yards. I'm sure you obviously like to have Brent Walton back there at that B-back position, but it was nice to get Isaiah back for a week, right?
Yeah, it was nice to get him back because that position is very physical. Previous week it was John Eaton, and he was carrying the load all by himself. Now we didn't run a ton of plays because we weren't on the field that much on offense, but ideally you have 2 guys there that can spell each other because it is such a heavy load area for our offense, and being able to get 17 carries, that doesn't even factor in the amount of times that he ran through there and possibly got tackled on some of those mesh plays that we run in the option. So it's certainly good to get him back, have 2 guys there that can carry the load and help each other out with that position.
This is the Coach Candeto Show here on athletics.capital.edu. Let's now talk about that wide receiver, Eddie Preciado. Here's a young man that you were able to pluck from the state of California. How did that come about?
Well, Coach Payne recruits California for us. He's got some local ties out there from his high school coaching days, and he's got that area. So he, obviously puts out the feelers to the local high schools out there. And Eddie was a guy that responded to us, and we were able to get him here and on campus and see what it's all about. And Eddie's film, I was talking to him the other day about his high school film and how impressed we were with his high school film and thinking, man, if we can get this guy to come to Capital, he's going to be pretty special. And Eddie's a great young man. He does everything we ask of him, and he just knows his role on the team. And as a receiver, a lot of times you're asked to block in our offense, but when the big plays come your way, we expect those guys to make plays. So it's nice to see those receivers have some get some publicity for what they do in catching the football, because they're almost every Saturday doing a lot and have a huge role in our offense, whether it's catching the ball or blocking. And we've got a great group of young receivers as well. Several guys got catches on Saturday. I think 4 out of the 5 guys we played at receiver had catches for positive gains on Saturday. So that makes it exciting to be able to contribute in that way as a receiver as well.
Preciado had 4 catches for 59 yards and a touchdown. You were telling me before we got this interview started that he had a couple drops, could have augmented his numbers just a little bit, but from what you're telling me, the sky's the limit with this kid.
It is. Yeah, he's a very athletic guy, can make people miss. I think he would have been over 100 yards had he made those 2 catches. Difficult catches, but catches that he can make. So I think that's just going to be part of his process and maturing, is being able to continue to step up and make those big plays when they're there.
Speaking of offensive stars, Brent Walton, he's had trouble coming back from that turf toe, but I understand that he's slowly but surely making his way back. What can you tell us about his injury status?
We hope he's back. He was running yesterday. I didn't notice any limping in his gait, so we're hoping that Brent comes back, because he's a vital part of what we're doing, and we're certainly never going to force anybody back before they're ready. So we'll listen to the trainers and listen to Brent and see how he feels. I know he wants to be back more than anybody, just having that conversation with him last week, early in the week, he's frustrated that he can't get back earlier because Brent is a guy that he wants to be on the field. He wants to be practicing. He wants to be with his teammates, and he's one of our leaders. So certainly not having him around in playing status has been a detriment to our football team.
You're watching the Craig Candeto Show here on athletics.capital.edu. Well, Coach, seems as though I sound like a broken record, but again, another top-flight quarterback you have to take on here in the OAC. Your next opponent is Heidelberg. Tyler Stoyle, here's an interesting kid. Comes from Centerburg, Ohio, kind of around here in the central Ohio region. He's only a sophomore, but he's got over 1,300 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, and he's doing this as a sophomore. What is allowing him to play like he's a junior or a senior?
Well, he's got a very experienced line in front of him. He's got some guys that have played and are seniors, so that always helps when you play a young quarterback in to have a line up front that knows what they're doing, that can protect. He's also got a lot of playmakers around him. I mean, Heidelberg's done a great job on offense, at least in my time here at Capital. They've always been explosive. They've had big play players, and I looked and he's had 10 touchdowns the last 2 games, so half of his season totals come the last 2 weeks. So hopefully we can slow that down a little bit and he doesn't continue that trend. But yeah, he's certainly a good player. You don't come up with those kind of numbers without being a special player. But I think their scheme helps him a lot. They throw it around a decent amount, and they have some players around him.
You talk about playmakers around him. Brian Lacey, 908 yards from the tailback position. He's also got 10 rushing touchdowns. What makes him effective from that tailback position when you watch him on film?
Well, I think that their scheme, one, when you're stretching the field laterally and vertically in the passing game, it's going to open up some of those lanes inside. And again, it goes back to that offensive line, opening up holes. He certainly is a talented young man, but again, in our offense and anybody's offense, it's not just one guy. It's kind of the system working for it. And I think they put a big emphasis on the running game as well to be able to take some pressure off the quarterback. Anytime you can have an effective run game, that quarterback's reads are going to open up a lot better downfield.
They also have talented wide receivers on that team, 3 guys that have at least 25 or more catches. You've gone up against some really talented wide receiving corps here in 2015. What's going to be the key here against Heidelberg?
Yeah, I think for us, it's not giving up a big play. The last couple weeks and really all season, we've given up some big plays, and I think that's a morale killer when you go out there for 1 to 2 plays and you give up a 70-yard drive within a minute. It affects the whole team. It affects the offense, defense, special teams. So if we can keep everybody in front of us and eliminate not only just the big passing plays, but also the big run plays. We had a couple big run plays last week that just kind of are a dagger to the heart. So if we can make teams drive the field and go 8, 9, 10-yard drives, it increases their opportunity to turn the football over, which we haven't been very good at this year, is getting those takeaways. And they'll make mistakes, but if they're on the field 2 plays, their percentages of making mistakes are a lot lower.
Finally, Coach, what kind of challenges does Heidelberg present defensively when your offense is out there on the field?
Yeah, they're very physical. I think you tend to lose that side of the ball when you see the numbers their offense puts up, because they certainly have been putting some points on the board. But I think they're 4th in the conference defensively. Got a lot of guys that fly around. I think the biggest thing is their up front guys rush the passer very well, and then their secondary is a very good secondary. Those guys up front, they're dipping their shoulders, getting the quarterback. So I think that is a strength for us, because we're not going to drop back in the gun and throw it 40 times trying to eliminate that aspect of their defense. But they're well coached. They fly around. They've done a nice job against us the last 2 years defensively. They certainly know what we're going to do on offense, and I think we know what they're going to do on defense. So I think it's going to come down to, as always, winning one-on-one battles with those guys. And the neat thing about their pass rushers is we have an opportunity to read those guys in the option and not just have to block them every single snap, because our guys know, I think that's what they do for a living. So they're probably going to have an advantage there. So if we can go ahead and break it down to where we're making those guys play a position or an assignment that they're not used to doing all year, we have an advantage there. But again, it comes down to execution for us, because last week we didn't execute very well, and our offense knows that. We weren't very physical. We turned the ball over, which we haven't really done much this year. So that's a recipe for losing. And I think we scored 14 points in the 4th quarter, 2 field goals early on. That's not going to get it cut. I think we can sit here and talk about the defense and our struggles all year. Well, the offense struggled last week, and so there was no chance to win that football game when our offense was struggling like it did. And the one positive from last week, special teams. Special teams did a pretty nice job. We had a couple long kick returns. We made 2 field goals. We were perfect on extra points, and for the most part did a pretty nice job. So if we can build on that and then win either defense or offense this week, win 2 out of 3, then we've got a chance. And that's what we're looking to do this week.
Looking for a better result as you go on the road against Heidelberg. Coach, thanks so much. Good luck against the Student Princess.
All right, Charlie, thanks.
That was head coach Craig Candeto joining us here on the Coach Candeto Show. For more, go to athletics.capital.edu. We're also on all of the social media platforms. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and also all the other social media platforms as well. I'm Charlie Danes for Capital Athletics. We'll see you next time.